Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on the program, a lawmaker questions the plan of the Marcos administration to, quote, soft launch the controversial Maharlika Wealth Fund at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. Back home, the Agriculture Department defends its onion importation order and warns that prices of some vegetables are also on the rise. Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel joins us in the program. And later, Miss USA Urbane Gabriel is the new Miss Universe. We'll speak with pageant expert Adam Henato to tell us what transpired in the most coveted beauty competition. President Bongbong Marcos is set to highlight the country's proposed sovereign investment fund as it takes the World Economic Forum stage. He says the Maharlika Fund will make investments in key sectors. Since it was proposed by the president's cousin, House Speaker Martin Romualdez, it has faced scrutiny amid concerns on its capital sources and timing. Let's go straight to the source of the story, Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel. Good morning, Senator.
Hi, Mai. May buntag na imbag na bigat sa lahat po ng to all of our viewers and listeners.
Maayong buntag po. Senator, you described the President's plan to do a soft launch of this Maharlika Wealth Fund in Davos as, let me quote you on this, a ploy to force the Senate into passing the Maharlika Investment Fund bill. Now, before we tackle your concerns and issues surrounding this bill, which were already raised by other lawmakers and other groups, let me ask you first, what is the status of this bill in the Senate? Because it passed the House very swiftly.
Right. As far as I know, there has been no counterpart measure or bill filed in the Senate. Wala. So, if this measure has passed the House of Representatives, we shall await the transmittal of the measure to the Senate for appropriate action. Hence, upon receipt or upon the filing of a counterpart or a similar measure in the Senate, this will have to be read during the first reading and then referred to the proper committee.
Okay, Senator, so hindi pa siya natatransmit, hindi pa rin siya naka-calendar for this year?
Yes, because pag calendar, the calendaring of measures will happen when we have session, and we will resume our sessions on January 23. So, yun po yun. If ever the Senate has received the transmitted approved Maharlika bill from the House, we will be able to act on it on January 23.
Okay, Senator, let's now talk about the issues raised against this bill. Now, first, ang sabi po, it is prone to abuse and corruption similar to what happened in Malaysia. So, wala pa rin bang transparency mechanisms sa bill na ito? And will the management of billions of pesos of funds still be left solely to the board?
Well, if you look at the Philippine government system, we also have checks and balance. We have auditing procedure, we have the ombudsman, and yet can we say na we have already eliminated or minimized corruption? Hindi pa nga eh. And this is government run by people who need to go for election. These are people who are reported by our news entities. So the media are covering the actions of these people. And this is government. And now we are creating another entity where there is a board running the show, managing and spending billions of pesos when they meet as a board behind the closed doors. So even if you write there in that bill that there will be 3 auditors, that is still not a sufficient safeguard. So So if there is no reason to put up this sovereign wealth fund because there is no source of extra funding, why are we doing this?
Oo
It's
nga po.
it's 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 another avenue for leakage of precious government and the people's resources.
Okay, some groups nga mentioned, who will oversee this fund? Di ba po? That's another concern. And also, another issue, like you said, where will the government source the funds now? Because in principle, di ba, it should be or commonly financed by a country's surplus revenues or reserves. But do we have surplus revenues? Because as it is, we are already drowning in debt.
In debt, yes. We are drowning in debt accumulated through years of budget deficits, and we do not produce enough to earn enough foreign reserves to sustain and finance the way of life that we want to have. So that is it. So what has happened that all of a sudden we feel that we have extra resources that we want to set aside, and then we want to place riskier bets using this so-called extra resources. Wala eh, wala. There is none. So I think even if an ordinary person or an ordinary household is given an advice by a so-called investment expert, he will tell the head of the family to only invest in riskier ventures your extra money, the amount that you can afford to lose, because investment is also a risk, or is also like resorting to a form of gambling. So yun po yun. So
Senator.
what has happened? So mag-isip tayo, let us review what has happened.
Okay, Senator.
Are we like Norway where we discovered a new oil field? Wala po eh.
Yun na nga, tinagal na po doon sa earlier version of the bill, hindi na nga po manggagaling sa SSS and GSIS pension fund kasi po, di ba, because of backlash from the people and many sectors, ano po. Pero now, initial capital daw po will be sourced from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, government financial institutions or GFIs, Land Bank of the Philippines, and DBP. As it is, also yung subsequent annual contributions will also come from the gross revenue streams of PAGCOR and other government-owned gaming operators. Pero po doon sa masosource siya from the BSP, Land Bank, and DBP. Do you have any concerns about this?
Yes, of course, very serious concerns. Number one, these sources are already existing or identified accounts in the public financial accounting system. They already serve a purpose. So for example, the assets or reserves of DBP and Land Bank, which they are proposing to form the initial funding for this Maharlika Investment Corporation, these funds from DBP and Land Bank already serve a purpose, and that is for the bank to have them so that the bank is run in a prudent manner. I mean, in a careful and cautious manner as a bank, because there are ratios that a bank should maintain so that the bank can be called a sound, healthy, trustworthy bank. So ginagamit na po yun. Ngayon, if we remove this from the balance sheets of DBP and Land Bank of the Philippines, then they might be already falling below the ratios or the reserve requirements required by the Bangko Sentral of other banks. So you see, so that's why in the bill itself, there are some exemptions there which are very dangerous. Why do we need to exempt some entities, especially the Maharlika Investment Corporation? It becomes a super GOCC. So, because the rules are there as safeguards, and yet we
Okay.
want to relax the rules. Ngayon, on the third source of initial capitalization, the BSP dividends, these are actually remitted to national government to be used in the an amount is returned to the BSP for the additional capital of the BSP, and the balance can be used for general funding budget to fund the budget. So if we deprive the national government of some cash flow, what will replace the cash flow from a dividend of a governmental body like the BSP? What will replace? Either higher taxes or more borrowings. So balik din po tayo. So
Okay.
the Maharlika Corporation actually will be another reason to incur more borrowings. So what
Yeah.
for?
Okay, Senator, let's go back to the Davos Forum. Well, there are all the potential investors there, global business leaders. Ang sabi po ng iba, wouldn't this be a good opportunity or platform for this kind of proposal, the Maharlika Wealth Fund, to be introduced to the business leaders and investors?
The Davos Forum is a good opportunity for the president to promote the Republic of the Philippines as an investment destination, that we are ready to do business with the world because we are a disciplined nation with a rule of law, with very clear rules which are stable. But you do not announce something which is not yet in existence. That is my point.
Sabi
The
niyo nga,
announcement of a
premature.
the announcement of a wealth fund is premature because that fund, the entity to manage that fund must be created by law. And we know our two-step process here in the Philippines. We have a bicameral legislative body. So 2 steps po yan. We have not yet taken the second step. If the president announces this, therefore it is premature, and the more dangerous effect is this will be an indirect way of pressuring the Senate to blindly approve this measure, which we should not, because if we study the House of Representatives version, nako, it is not well thought of, it is not well written, and it has internal inconsistencies or contradictions.
Okay, Senator, let me just read this quote from President Marcos because he had this to say on the Maharlika Investment Fund. Ang sabi po niya, we are forming a sovereign wealth fund for big investments in the basic areas such as agriculture, energy, digitalization, and climate change. Your thoughts po?
It's still premature because una sa lahat, I thought this was a fund to generate money, income or profits for the corporation so that it can help the nation. The measure has internal contradictions. So number one, is this a corporation where the profits will be given to the investors? Okay. If not, then the profits will be enjoyed by the people. How? How will the people enjoy the profits? Why will the big businesses who are organized for profit attending the Davos conference invest in a corporation where it is not for profit? So those are questions we do not know because actually the version of the first version, the approved version of the Maharlika measure is very different from the initial versions filed.
Senator,
It has shifted in concept and focus and
Yes.
idea. That's why the final version accommodates different concepts which are already contradicting each other.
Okay, Senator, before we take a break and move on to other topics, let me ask you this. Do you have enough numbers sa Senate po do you think you have the numbers to oppose this bill? And ang sabi po ni Senator Mig Zubiri, masuscrutinize naman po ito when it reaches the Senate. Can you take his word for it?
Well, that's correct. That's correct. We will really scrutinize this, and I think although we only have a two-person minority, I believe that the 22-person majority will also scrutinize this measure.
Okay, we will be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Our source today, Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel. Senator, let's talk about the rising prices of vegetables, and the high prices of onions. So today po, the Agriculture Department has defended its decision to import over 21,000 metric tons of onions to lower prices. But farmers groups are calling this wrong timing. Your thoughts on this, Senator?
That's correct. It's really wrong timing because I have been informed by an onion farmer in the Mindoro area that they are going to harvest this February 15, if I'm not mistaken, starting February 15. So, alam mo, there's always a time lag between decision and actual implementation. So, if the Department of Agriculture decides now to import onions, then given the time lag, the imported onions will arrive during harvest season or harvest time for locally produced onions. So, it's really wrong timing. Sasabayan mo pa ng produce of the farmers of other countries yung produce ng Filipino farmers.
So mawawalan nga po ng kita.
Why are we doing this? Kung hindi na nga natin, we did not allow our Filipino onion farmers to enjoy the high prices or the high price for onions, because when the onions reached the peak price, it was during the peak season of Christmas, and those were imported onions.
So ano po ang solusyon at this time? At kasi po, it seems, sabi nyo, ill-timed ang importation at this time. So, hindi po ba ito napaghandaan sa tingin ninyo?
It looks that way, Mai, because they know the Department of Agriculture are our experts in agricultural matters. Ako, nalaman ko lang naman yung February 15 date from when I talked to an onion farmer in the Mindoro area. The DA should know that, and therefore I assume that they really know that. And yet alam nila February 15 is just around the corner, and they make the decision to import onions now, and they know that there is also a time lag. The decision to import onions now will not lead to the arrival of onions tomorrow. They will arrive after a certain time lag, hindi ba?
Okay.
So,
Senator, ito po si Marikina Representative Stella Kimbo. She wants a House probe on the so-called onion cartel. Ang Senado po ba dapat imbestigahan din kung bakit umabot sa napakataas ang presyo ng sibuyas and into this so-called onion cartel?
Matagal na pong sinabi ni Senator Cynthia Villar po yan, Mai, to all our televiewers. Matagal na pong sinabi niya na there is a cartel, and therefore the Senate has started investigation on this. The mere fact, ito lang, I've read the report that tens of thousands of bags of onions were intercepted and smuggled goods into the country. So that means that there is supply from the rest of the world. Meron and yet, therefore supply is available, and yet prices are too high in the Philippines. So how can you explain that?
At hindi
There
lang
must be
onions, Senator.
there is a cartel, there is a manipulation of the price.
Oh, hindi lang po onions ngayon ang problema kasi po pati yung presyo ng itlog and vegetables
Right.
like ampalaya, cabbage, carrots, they've seen a spike of 10 to 15% according to the DA. So people are asking what is happening? What do you think should be done, Senator? And do you think President Marcos should appoint already a full-time agriculture secretary?
Yes, that has been my position all along. That although it's really the president's call, no, that the cabinet is his official family, the secretary of the Department of Agriculture is his alter ego. But my point is, this cabinet secretary, the department secretary, can help you. So you have an extra hand, extra pair of hands, an extra mind or brain power to help the president, focus on agricultural matters. So that should be done, and then that's the problem. Do you know that the Congress just recently passed some measures recognizing our egg capital in the Philippines, so the egg producing places in the Philippines. So, and yet we have this problem. So we should really focus on production. Ganun muna production. We should produce more from our land, and what we should produce are the basic items that we consume every day. Yun po.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
kung meron mang yayaman from the fact that 110 million Filipinos eat meals 3 times a day, let it be the Filipino farmer, not the foreign farmer.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today, but thank you so much for being with us this morning. Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel. We will be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Stay tuned.